And with this, let me start what we plan to cover around what exactly sustainable. The very first thing is sustainable word itself. Sustainable procurement principles. In those days when I used to do around, and I'm talking 80s and 90s beginning, we had ISO 14001, 9001. 9001 was only focusing on the quality management. Then came 14,001, and we were pushing a lot on that, guys. I will not do a business with any company until you show me that you have ISO 14,001. And 14,001 was focusing a lot on environmental management. It was more related to the business side. Either X or Y company, let's say your company, has guidelines and the procedures in place for which you could be certified that you are ISO 14,001 because you're taking care of consumption part of electricity, waters, so all the natural resources you are trying to cut down. But in the last 5 years, I would say 2017, ISO 20,400 has come around. This purely relates, it's not a certification. 14,001 was certification. 9,001 for quality management was a certification. 20,400 is not a certification, it's a guidebook. Every procurement office should have a book, this one. It gives you the guide how to implement and how to make procurement sustainable. So these sustainability impacts, what are the considerations? And now we want to integrate sustainability into the policy part. Obviously, in any organization, particularly any organized organizations, they need a policy, they need procedure, they need strategy. So how do we build it? An ISO 20,400 is a beautiful top subject, I would say, for that. Organizing the procurement function in place. Then practical issues to it, selection, because your sustainability comes from the supplier side. If I'm selecting a wrong supplier who is emitting more, then I'm not doing much support. So lots of depends on the selection of the supplier. Then we're talking of circular economy. It's not a straight line path. Straight line means I use it, then I say, oh, I have fed up, throw it away. Goes back to the mother earth. No. Goes into the sea. No. So we are looking at a circular economy means, can this be reused? Can it be replaced? So something like that. So in short, when we're talking of 70 to 75, procurement is a cornerstone of sustainable policy. So in procurement, the sustainability word becomes very, very crucial. So if I say sustainable procurement, let me give a little definite academic definition. It refers to how business can identify to reduce environmental. That's the bottom line. Environmental effect of the whole supply chain. And in that supply chain, transportation is there, manufacturing is there, storage is there, raw material extraction is there, complete end-to-end. So that means the key pillars which I would call around is identifying suppliers, doing the production materials that have been sourced responsibly. Responsibility means that if they are taken out from the mines, or if you're using a paper, instead of cutting down the trees, you're using a recycled paper. So that means the source is responsible source. Each process is cutting on the waste around. So nowadays, whatever consulting work, we work it out. The major focus is how we can cut from end to end wastage. More the wastage, that means somewhere it is affecting the environment, maintaining a healthy work environment. The social factor also, which we never cared around. If I'm getting a surprise from X company versus Y, the Y is doing all the best practices around, taking care of his staff. X is only slaving the people, not giving the best salary, best this, so not healthy environments around. So that's the thing. So this is what we are saying in a very short way, what is sustainable. But normally when the word sustainability comes, different words comes around depending on your background. If I go back to 95, we were only talking about 95. In procurement, we never talked about sustainable, let me be honest. We talked of green procurement. And that's the time we wrote down the book. I personally wrote down one small booklet around green procurement. Guys, my specifications are green. But now we're looking into sustainability is much better. So green is also right. Now we're talking climate change. The way I started my dialogue today is sustainability to link with climate change. Is it to link with circular economy? Is it eco-friendly? So you can imagine all these terms which each one talks around in a different workshop. Typical procurement guy will say, I'm a green procurement, end of. And somebody else will be a climate guy and say climate change, conservation, renewable energy. Then somebody say, no, guys, the population is going up. We are consuming much more and we are doing much more emission. That could also be there around. Grassroots activism, regenerations, better use of technologies. If by sitting at home, I can get my job done, why should I go and create more carbon footprints? So sustainable growth is another one. So this is broad, various jargon which are going around when somebody talks of sustainability, and I will say all are right. So from a procurement context, we have to see what is relevant to us. Now, sustainability first operates under the assumption that we have finite resources. That's a very important one. We have one planet, and it is finite resources. If we feel the resources are automatically regenerating, that's a different story. Then we don't need to worry. But it is a finite resources, like for fossil oil. People say, guys, the next 10 years, 15 years, we won't be left the way we are consuming now. So we have to find new ways. But if it has been infinite, nothing to worry, then we won't have been talking sustainable. Since they are finite, that means it is not sustainable the way we consume now. The resources will not last forever. That means we may leave something for our next generation. We may consume so much, nothing is left for the next generation, future generation. So this is where the concept of sustainability comes. The preamble that we talked around in the beginning also, impact on the climate change. India moving towards net zero's commitment. I think you hear a lot on different conference and G20 conference. They're talking a lot on this. So each one is trying to set their own green pledges. I think in that sense, I would say India is taking a big lead on this side. And our target is 2070, but still a long way to go. If you look at the ambition wise, we come into the number 3. I mean, the US is one, certainly. China is another one, and we come up in that. So we have a long way to go. And particularly if we want to improve our make in India, so we have to be more careful on that part. Some of the India's biggest companies have declared net zero targets. Some have already joined UN Global Compact around. I would say around 360 companies from India have joined UN Global Compact, the guys we wanted to have. I think even your organization also has already committed on sustainability. We hear a lot about your chairperson talking of sustainability. It's becoming a hot topic and very important topic. Look at the emissions, because story before I get to the procurement, let's touch the whole background. The greenhouse gas emission, if I look from fossil fuel, retrievals, processing, 11.3%. Starting from the raw material till somebody is consuming it, maybe in your cars, in your scooters, complete part, 11.3% can be. If we say around the carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, carbon dioxide is a major one, 75%. So the focus today is all about carbon dioxide. There are others also, but I will not focus much on this. That is a major one. Major challenges, if we look around, this one is obviously the capital cost. If I want to optimize performance, I want to cut down my waste. Do I have the capital money to rechange the whole technologies around? Today, my emission may be from the chimney, maybe too much. But if I want to cut down, the cost is too high. Is it viable for me? So there are many issues. Second reasons could be that I don't have visibility. You guys are buying something. You only know up to tier 1 supplier. And the tier 1 is buying from tier 2. Tier 2 might be buying from tier 3. And tier 3 might be getting a raw material from X place. And somebody may be mining the iron material or something. The whole visibility is not. Where are the problems? Where is the wastage? How can I cut down the wastage? If something I can buy locally, why should I import all the way from other places around, add to my transportation emission? And then expertise in this field. This subject was not very popular in those days in terms of jobs, in terms of application. I remember the time we were coming in a very active way on UN Global Compact. Very time I got offers around to move into that, but then I thought, what I'm going to do with this long time? But I did some work on that part. So talent shortage is there. Now I think the new generation, a lot of people are coming up with this background knowledge, a lot of research, volatile prices, environmental footprints. Environmental damage, not to scare, but this is a little bit on the side of the global warming, air pollutions, acid rain, and this all relates to the big picture I'm showing, relates to oil and gas industry. Oil spills, we have been hearing a lot. Something if I'm buying the crude oil, on the way if there are spills or something, or acid rain, air pollutions, petroleum distillate, that can cause many defects around. So I think the picture itself speaks a lot. Now, if I talk of oil and gas sectors, the area with sustainability aspect does your company measures. Waste management is one biggest one. So in the waste management also procurement people get involved in disposal of that. So when it comes to disposal of the goods in many companies, procurement people are. Community contribution is second. Oil spill reduction in case you are taking care of transportation, social investment, society training, source of material. So the place from where you buy, what specifications are there? Again, procurement people gets into that. Gas flaring reduction, it is more into the production side, not only for the procurement. So transportation, again, procurement, where you are trying to decide from where to buy. So carbon foot reduction is another one. And this is broadly, I would say, around sustainability aspects around. When we talk about net zero, I think this is very basic for us. When we're talking about 2070 will be net zero. What does it mean? So measures to lower emission plus measures to remove emission, if all put together, first thing I'm cutting down the emission. Then second, I'm trying to remove the emission. That emissions could be through forest, even direct air capture also. Like Beijing, they were doing around big tower and engulfing the whole carbon dioxide. So combinations. Or some companies have got, they don't buy at all any electricity from outside. They have a solar system. And the solar system takes care of all. So they are not creating any emission. On the contrary, they might be selling the electricity through this. Those are the concepts which try to bring into, it's a balance. What you produce, what you consume. This is a very, again, a scary thing. And if this is not done by 2050, so this is what the word says around, guys. The sea level will go up and many of the cities will be, I mean, whether I know in many European countries, Bangladesh, Dhaka, even Mumbai. So you can say around, there's a lot of vulnerability. Nothing to get scared, but the main idea is there's a vulnerability. And so it is a common process we have to think around. So this is a figure which justifies. So whenever you spend X money or Y money in any organization, let's say 40% is internal spend, staff, activities around, 60% is supply chain. This is again varies from company to company. In some intensive manufacturing, it could be 70, even 80%. Or if I'm a company like Apple, easily accept 20% of the staff salary and of those things, 80% is all supply chain. So this figure, which 60% you see around, say, it could be 60, could be 70, could be 80. And if it's a pure service company, maybe 50. So that means you guys are contributing. If you put a sincere efforts, I think your role is very much relevant to cut down the carbon emission. So procurement is in the center. So that means procurement is driven through ISO 20400. On the one side, I've got a stakeholders. And those stakeholders are managed through my ISO 26000. Now, internal stakeholders could be the people who make decisions, all budget holders, key functions. Other side, I've got a supply chain. So this is my in-house, and this side, the supply chain, which is contributing a major share, you can say, towards the emission. So this is the place we want agreements between the buyer, our procurement officials, our supply chain people, with the complete suppliers. But then the stakeholders have to define your work. So procurement comes in the center, somebody has to spell the specification, and then you go down to the supply chain. Now this 20,400 gives very active details around, I'll be touching more in detail further. So in short, if you divide around two, one side I've got a procurement, sourcing, buying, purchasing, that's your function. Other side are people who are focusing on sustainability, focusing on environment, focusing on diversity part, ethical sourcing, cutting on the corruption. So these two put together brings sustainable. So sustainability is on the left side, right side procurement. So these two people activities, or one person with two brains working together and try to bring better activities. So the carbon footprints, when we talk of, at the end of the day, emission is all about the footprints. Now these footprints, I know that the trading also goes on the carbon side. This activity has been going for many years. And there are many companies in India of late have started actively on this, buying, selling of carbon footprints. Now, carbon footprint total amount of greenhouse gas, GSG, released into the atmosphere. So there are three sources, scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. So the scope 1 is emission by your own action. Suppose your 80, 90 people are working in the procurement activities around. You guys are using paper, you're using printing, you're using all the activities around, so air conditioning. So that emission, because of your activities, if you're using a paper, so someone is producing the paper, then you're throwing them into the dustbin. So all that activities which happens because of you, emission 2 is, scope 2 is the one which is happening in the company because you guys are sitting there. Somebody has to provide you the right temperatures. Somebody has to provide you the food. So emission which happens because of the company is scope 2. But scope 3 is a major chunk of procurement people. So all indirect. The other one was direct, but the indirect emissions that happens because of your business activity, transportation activity, travel activities, office supplies, whatever comes from outside. So this gives a very nice pictorial view. So you are scope 1, your own activities. Scope 2 is which company does to buy electricity for you, heat, electricity to keep you fit and healthy. But scope 3 is two parts, upstream, downstream. Upstream means you're procuring it, transporting it, traveling it, and then you're selling those transport goods, uses of goods, and dispose. At the end, when the goods are used, somebody has to dispose. So keep in mind, scope 3 is around 80% of the whole thing. And that's where the role of procurement comes. Somebody's buying, somebody's selecting a supplier, somebody's transporting it, and then you're sometimes traveling to the suppliers. Our supplier is coming to you. That's all upstream. Downstream means when the job comes, material comes, you're taking it away. So this is where we look around. Scope 3 is a major, major content. So in short, after setting the, giving the context in detail, so that means the past is gone, and now if you want to complete the target in the future, you want to make green India, green world. So we have to switch over to the future. So switching over from the past to the future, here comes. And then I can skip few slides around because I've touched already. the benefits around. If I'm switching over, the first thing I have to be convinced to the management guys, what are the benefits for me? Because normally we think if I want to get into sustainable, my cost will go up. But no, it is not necessarily all the time. So it reduces the risk part. It improves the reputation part. I know there are 36,000 companies worldwide who are signed with the UN Global Compact, UNGC. So those who get it, and they very proudly declare themselves that we are following all the best guidelines, best practices. So I think there's a reputation part. And public image also goes up. Decrease costs. Always not necessarily that if you're going for a change of material, which is environmentally friendly, your cost will go up. For some time, it may be there. If I go 15 years back or 20 years back, solar system, everybody will say, guys, forget about it, it's too costly. Today, solar system electricity at your home, if I want to do through the normal fossil oil, it may be costing me 7 to 8 rupees a unit. But with solar system, maybe 3 to 4 rupees. So it's becoming economical. And if the volume goes bigger and bigger, the cost of the capital equipment goes down, or some subsidies are there around, this could become a lower cost. So it's not necessarily green electricity is costly or not necessary. It certainly is a revenue. So when your branding goes up, guys, this company is green. They're not creating any damage to the earth. So revenue growth is there. And then you're certainly future-proofing yourself by using these guidelines of sustainability part for everyone, including procurement, certainly. You future-proof the organization. Against what? Potential shortage. So the shortage which is happening around, if I'm reusing some item, recycling some item, the shortage will be less. Selection of the supplier. So when we talk about selection of supplier, at the end of the day, what procurement does, the chain starts from supplier. I need to look at the economic part. Am I getting value for money? Is the quality right one? Availability, functionality, environmental consideration. So environmental part also we look from cradle to grave, our whole life cycle. So that means the moment it was taken from the Mother Earth, till it goes back, how much damage it has done. Social consideration. I think this is also becoming very important around. So when I talk about green procurement, then focus was purely on environmental side, let me tell you. When we talk about sustainable procurement, then all the three pillars comes. So that means purchasing decisions is poverty eradication, international equity of distributions, labor conditions, human rights, gender disparities, all those factors come. So broadly, there are the three pillars around. So if I look around, this gives you something sustainable procurement parameters. Are the companies doing, how they're doing? We take sustainability performance into consideration when selecting the supplier. So what we say, guys, if you want to check somebody's performance rating, sustainability performance rating. So these are the top questions we have around. We do some survey part. The first question would be, are you doing it? Yes or no? Then we'll get the question. We include sustainability criteria into RFP, RFX, and all the tenders around. I know it's a new concept, still I think is missing in many companies. I think the time has come, and government is also trying to come with guidelines on this. I think we have to start including this. Again, one size for all won't fit. Again, each company to company, they have to come with their own guidelines. We look at sustainability performance and implementing incentive. If somebody want to give incentive, you want to say, guys, those who are totally green, we will give you a preference of 5%, 10% in pricing. Sustainability performance. Again, if you want to make SRM, supplier relationship management. So all that factors are there. Going on this category part, evaluation part, supplier self-assessment. At the end of the day, we don't want to be forcing supplier. We want suppliers should have their own guideline. They should say, guys, we are following ISO 20004. The day each company starts following ISO 14001, ISO 20400, I think it becomes a self-assessment part. But there are the three pillars. So if I talk of green, then the only one pillar, environment, thus ensuring specs are green. But if I'm talking of the word sustainable, then certainly the people are very important to us, social part. Economics is also. Because management will not support me if I say, guys, don't talk me of this fact word around. I want at the end my profitability. At the end, my people, I should have a more revenue. So this part, we cannot ignore it. The economics part and the social is available. As I said to you, in 95, 2000, we were only focusing on the green part. When we talk of economic, we're talking of economic regeneration, sustainable this, emerging market, development of SMEs, total cost of ownership, value for money, poverty reductions. Environmental part, we'll talk about resource management, urban planning, carbon dioxide reduction is a major one, water management. Or if some people are using alternative source of energy like solar, wind, certainly I'll give them more preference. How do they do the waste management? Again, preference on that. Social is all about human rights, clean drinking water, food security, what it covers. So broadly, there are three key pillars. So when you guys want to make up your own guidelines, this is based on SP process. So it's a three-dimensional process. You've seen those three dimensions. Now, the objective when we're doing around is obviously first thing is financial, reduce operating cost. Economics part is very important. Something which was economically 20 years back, I would have said, guys, forget about it. But now there are many worldwide new ideas have come around, new technologies have come around, so it has become viable now. Risk management, certainly, commitment to goals, stakeholders' expectations, and attractiveness. That's another aspect. Now let's get down to sustainability and the process part. So this is purely procurement process. The very first thing starts from identification. Second come analyzing what is the impact on the environment. Third is my requirements, sourcing part, implementing part, and then checking it. So all these 6 steps around goes more into this. Very first one, I look around the market research. Then I look around RFQ, RFB. Am I adding all these criteria, sir? So your specification has to be very clear. Do they add value for money? Are they included into RFPs or not? Then the sourcing part, how much weightage I'm giving to environmental issues. Or I'm just talking environment, but no weightage for that. If you're saying, guys, no in selection, 20% weightage for environment. That means you're promoting environmental aspect. I know overnight nothing can happen. That's why when we say target of 2070 to become net zeros, so we have to go gradual process around. Contract implementation. In the contract implementation also, many amendment happens, many changes happens around. So that means there could be impact on the environmental part. And the last is to check whatever we have planned, is it going well? If it's going well, then I increase my benchmark. So that's what we're looking around the sustainability consideration part now. Okay, guys, now here comes another one, 2x2 matrix. All procurement people know very well about this. So we divide the complete procurement. If somebody says I'm following strategic approach, so my request to all of you would be complete spend of your organization should be into these 2x2 matrix. One axis is cost, how much money I spent, what are the risks? And the risk I'm looking broadly by one parameter, the choice is available. Second could be impact to you. But now if I say my choice, if I'm looking at a strategic critical, high cost, high risk, my approach is totally different. So I'm focusing on sustainability and cost. So here I'll put down specify minimum sustainability criteria in the specs. So keep in mind, so my approach, if I'm starting around developing specifications, trying to hammer on each supplier, I have to be careful. I can't do all supplier with a one size, no. Strategic supplier, my focus is different. If I'm going to tactical supplier, I want total cost reduction. I want drive cost down. I want sustainability must. I'll even spell out the sustainability criteria around, because I have a choices. My risks are very limited. So you have to go very selective. So where my risks are low, like tactical equities, simple sustainability, I'll tell them, guys, these are my criteria. Either you do it or forget about it. Somebody else will do it. But these two upper one you see around strategic critical, strategic security, in both cases, the risk is high. So when we say of risk, it means I have limited choices. I can't dictate the suppliers. Until supplier of his own wants to change, great. So you will get very few suppliers in this one when they know very well they are in a monopoly situation. So you may have to accept some time, give them more time. But certainly in the tactical side, where I got less risk, in one side more cost, other side less cost, easier to do. Your approach, if you're trying to do around any policies around, don't come with one size for all suppliers. That's what I would say. Now, this is a scope 3 emissions around. We talked about scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. Scope 3 is 80%. Your own emission is not there. You say, guys, if I tell procurement, say, we don't do any emission. We only make purchase orders, but we forget around, it's not your emission, your activity, your purchase order, when you move on the supply chain, end to end, they create service. So that's what we do. Now, coming back to the procurement requirements. So there are social labels, eco labels. They are available nowadays. Still not much in India, but in the Western countries, yes. In Japan, certainly you will find. But I'm sure now momentum is picking up. It started long back, went down, but now again, after the G20 presidentship, this is picking up. So some companies are coming with the eco label. And once you've got an eco label, means their goods are environmental friendly. You don't have to check each and every supplier all the way down. If these eco labels are there, then it's fine. Specifications are very important. You have two types of specs. You and me, when we went to the college, we have engineering drawing exactly the way we want. But then we have to look, that is conformance based. Other ones say, no, guys, tell me what you want. What is your performance requirement? And based on the performance, they come out with good ideas around, which may cut down emission. But if I'm giving them the design, ready-made everything, then chances of my cutting down emissions are lower. So slowly my request will be that we should try to move towards performance until they're your own design. But in your own design also, you can look into that. The performance-based specs. You just spell what exactly you want. Like you and me buy a car, we are not saying how much the thickness of this, how much of this one. We'll say, I look for a car which looks nice, looks sleek, fuel consumption is less, noise level is less, and I've got these features, that feature, that's all. Safe enough. It's a basically performance-based specs. So you give the supplier a choice to design the way they want. Eco labels certainly are there around. Certifications also there around. So eco label, still, I would say they're in the very beginning stage, but many organizations are working on it. This was the word green procurement. I thought, let me touch on this as well, because this could be a beginning actually. Sometimes people say, guys, social is not my problem around. Social is done by the government. From their rights and policies, yes, I agree with that. So sometimes if I have to do around, I'll say, guys, let me not jump into the bigger picture. Let me start first with the green. Immediately one. where I can easily cut down because I know how to improve the specs around. So the 3 Rs which we're talking around is reduce, reuse, recycle. That's what we can call around. Here comes ISO 20000. So I'll be spending a few more minutes on this. Maybe the session goes a little 5-10 minutes more if you excuse me. So the subject is so. So now I'll touch about ISO 20004. First international standard developed in 2017. You can say now around 6 years. Is the procurement that has the most positive environmental, that's one environmental means green, social and economic impact possible over the entire life. So this is the key broad message in this one. So ISO guidance on SP means sustainable procurement. The understanding of what SP is. This gives a very nice, a small booklet of 150 pages. What SP is, how sustainably impacts the different levels of procurement activities, how to implement SPs practically. So it gives you the map also, the roadmap how to implement. So it does not replace legislations, policies, ethical regulatory procurement. So it is not replacing when your existing policy is gone. No, you all have those legislation. On top of it, you can say that, guys, this is the process I'll be following. For the higher level, you're not changing it, but the next level, certainly you can change. The benefit parts, it ensures supply chain security, prevents financial, environmental, and reputational risk, promotes employees' well-being. So that's how it looks around. Now, this is a book, it looks like 7 broad chapters. Scope is there, normative references are there, terms and conditions are there, understanding the fundamentals are there, integrating sustainability into your policy and strategy, integrating it. I'm not changing your policy, but just integrating. Organizing the procurement function towards sustainability. Integrating again into the procurement process. Now, this is broad. If I look around the evaluation of the suppliers, how will I do it around? So this gives you broad fundamentals guidelines. So I've taken from the same ISO 20004. Economically, what is the experience around? Then I look around productivity, service capacity, design, social parameters, environmental parameters. So the packaging, what they use around, what materials is used around. So it gives you a broad framework on this, but you can expand on it, When they talk about award criteria, again, I put on my judgment around, but I would say technically, yes, 50% specs is very important to us. Quality is very important. Price is also important. But on sustainable part, if you want to promote it, so we have to give some weightage to it. So to begin with, maybe 10%, then 20%, then 30%, I'll leave it to you. Because overnight you can't change the whole world, but in step, you can create awareness. And you can motivate the suppliers. So this is the framework which has been provided by ISO 20400. So broadly, under the 7 headings, you have the scope, informative definition. Now the fundamental, which is the real thing, up to this is up to 1, 2, 3 is all glossary. Glossary is why should we do it, what benefits, what terminology. The key chapters are 4, 5, 6, 7. The 4th tells you guys, how do I manage my risk around in this world? What diligence is required? What setting the priorities around? Avoiding complexity and exercising influence. How do I influence my marketing? How do I influence my customer? In the policy part come organization goal has to be set. If I'm developing for any company, my job would be organization goals are there, but now your chairperson is coming around on sustainability in the big way I see. There the goals are already coming in. The moment chairman says, guys, this is what we want to achieve by this year. We want to cut down our emission. We want to cut down this. So goals are coming up at the higher level. Now that goal plus the context of procurement, the combination of the two will become my policy and strategy for sustainable procurement. So this one we have to build it. So until the broad roof is there, nothing will fall down. Then the next thing comes is my organization. Do I have the right people? How do I govern it? Saying in paper is fine. The next 5 years will become green. Nothing will happen until I have a governance package. Who's going to check? Who's going to ensure? Who's going to certify? So the people come the next. I need the people with the right background. Are my existing people, I need to train them. So today what we're doing around is giving an overview that this is needed around. So people need to be trained on the stakeholders. It is not the procurement per se. It is a stakeholder, which could be a supplier, which could be my internal people who are writing specification to me, the people who are asking me to go and buy MRO item or this item. So they also have to change. I'm the one who's making a request to you. I also have to change. But this subject, I would say around, is not only for procurement people, it's for all across it. So the stakeholders also need to be trained. Priorities have to be decided. Now, this one we came across one organization. He said, Krishan, what do you want us to do? Should we take on social parameter first? Should we take on environmental first? Obviously, then I said, guys, keep social out. As it is, you are a big name. You are taking care as per the government guideline. Social parameter out, but take environment first, the greening first. Greening specs against stakeholders. And next is obviously there around is greening part. Then I'll look at it by going into green. It's just like when we say, I want an organic food. If the price shoots up, these guys forget about it, So here also, what are the economic issues about? So economic part has to go side by side. You can't think of a greening specs without looking at economics. If greening helps me to cut down my cost, great. The reporting part. We need to create awareness to the top bosses also, guys. We are reducing the cost. Then they can brand the organization accordingly. So we are greener at a lower cost. And if somebody is a grievance supplier or someone, should be able to spell it out so that we take action. Then the process is straightforward. So once this is set, how do we plan? How do we source? How do we manage? The sourcing mechanism, evaluation mechanism, RFQ, RFP, everything around, planning part, and management. So this gives you the broad framework of ISO 20004. So the way I went through it, I think it's a very impressive one. Next come environmental impacts. What could be the impact? So when we talk about impact, it could be waste, it could be disposal. Every company has a disposal, right? Your company has a disposal, whether through chimney, whether through the other ways around. There is a disposal. There is a waste. Improved efficiency for using finite skills. Protecting biodiversity. If your emissions go into the sea, or something is lost, some fishes are killed, or something killed, if the biodiversity is gone, some birds were around in the city and now the birds are gone, that means there's a biodiversity. Carbon dioxide, methane, other gases which are affecting the climate. But carbon dioxide is a major. Methane is more from the agriculture produce or our animal world. So the methane is from there. Environmental impacts come such as noise, water, and ground pollution. So that's another areas around where we put down a big impact on the noise level. If my plant is making a big noise and it raises the noise level in the neighborhood, so this could affect the hearing losses for the people. Water part also. Am I polluting the waters around? As we saw in the good old days, many companies came up in Kanpur, many places around, and they were polluting the Ganges around. So ground pollution. I've seen in tanneries, many tanneries around in Chennai and this, and they used to have one drainage. All chemicals are going into that. And that's the chemical going into the earth and the same water we are trying to take it out and drinking it. So this is the where environmental impact we have to look around, Strategy requires focus on what? sustainability criteria, monitoring part, crowdsourcing. I think is a wonderful word around crowdsource. Tell them, guys, we give only preference to those who come with good ideas, innovative ideas. We are trying to go to the supply sources, particularly where the choices. I've got 10 suppliers, say, guys, great. As you know, we are now marching towards sustainability. So we look for a supplier who come with a better innovation and justify that how are you helping the environment without compromising the functional specs. Performance part remains same, but solutions could be different. So that's what we're looking at. Better integration of procurement, promoting and utilizing public and private partnership now, enhancing already high transparency standard. So that means ethical part when we talk around, I think it is very important, and particularly in the public sector, we're looking around. We want transparencies. How was supplier selected? How they were given the business? Or they were telling a wrong thing and actually they were not green product. Maybe the sticker was green, but the product was not green. So we need a right eco label of this thing is important. I think this is becoming a key thing. It's becoming a new business also. So I've seen in the Western world now new companies are coming around. They say, guys, instead of each XY supplier, buyer, does and say, guys, can you tell me, are you green? Then there are companies coming around to justify it, to prove it. So once we get that certification, this whole supply chain is greener, then I have to have faith in that. Because you can't have your own arrangements, so you let others do for you. So the cost reduction is one, certainly. That will drive it. If the cost goes up, your management will say, guys, hold on, I don't have deep pockets. The revenue has to go up. Branding has to improve. Risk has to go down. Not that the name of the green, I want to improve my risk also. No chance. So one has to look around all these drivers as well. The key indicators, if I say around prevention of pollution, sustainable resource use, eco label is very important, climate change, biodiversity and habitat, whole life cycle cost, gender issue, social well-being, SMEs, if I'm helping around. The last one is UN Global Compact. I think your company also should take a lead in this business around. While from India, we have around 360 companies who are part of the UN Global Compact. I think it spreads a wonderful message around. ISO standards, there are others also, 26,000. So 26,000 is purely for social responsibility, the social pillar. But this one, government is pushing its own guidelines, clauses. But I would say procurement people should focus a lot on 20,004. The key 7 principles. When we talk about UN Global Compact, there are 10 principles. Here we're talking of accountability, transparencies, ethical behaviors, stakeholders' interest, the rule of the law, international norms of the behaviors, respect of human rights. And this is what various standards are there around. On quality management, all of you know ISO 9001. I remember the chance when I worked with a few companies to help them after coming in India how to get 9001. So basically our procurement office, I don't know whether your procurement office has been certified under 9001. So it is basically a process. We did it for the UN office. I remember the time I went down to the local UN office, WHO and all this. I said, I'll help you to get 9001. So the QMS, I would say even procurement should look for this. You can be proudly saying this, 14,001, but 20,400 is very, very important now. I would put it this. Others, you can leave it because they are being covered by government guidelines. 26,000, the anti-bribery, energy management. But this is the one which each procurement person need to know. Each page, each line, so that your policy is done as per that. I've given you a little flavor of that. Getting started with that, evaluate your cost of supply chain first, which in your case is very high. What portion of the revenue goes towards paying suppliers? If you look at the bigger picture, certainly it is very high. Do you know the social and environmental impact? That's what we're looking at. Not looking at social impact, I leave it to you whether you want to combine the two first or you want to start on the one, then go to the next one. So this is your choice, depending on your efforts, depending on the talent you have, and depending on the people you have. Key elements, if I say around understanding fundamentals of CSR, the whole philosophy of 24,000 has come from CSR, corporate social responsibility. Your company also doing CSR activity and sustainable. Integrating sustainability into the policy. So the word sustainability first we need to define. I've given you a bigger picture, but then your organization has to define what they look around sustainability. Is it a reverse cycle around? Is it a circular chain? Is it this? Is it that? Is it only specification? First, you need to define. You have to go in steps. Overnight, nothing will happen. You have to go through the baby steps, organizing the procurement functions towards sustainability, integrating it. Last mile delivery is becoming very, very critical. Now we see a lot on the roads. More and more young population is going with online. Young, older, everybody is moving in online. So the moment we go into the online, more transportation on the roads, and this is what they expect by 2030. India's last mile, which is going on the motorbikes, is going to grow by 78%. Think of in Mumbai, if you got more motorbikes on the roads, which we were taking earlier half an hour, now it will take you another 1 hour to reach the place. So now government is pushing up how do we cut down the emissions related to that. So electric vehicle, as you are seeing all of us, is booming in a big way, particularly in the two-wheelers. Two-wheelers, three-wheelers, electric vehicle is coming back. So at least we can cut down the emission in the big cities. The source of energy could be done through solar or other means at the background. Delivery will cause related emissions, require interventions. So that's cut down emissions by up to 30%. Greener footprints, I would call efficiencies can pay for themselves. If I'm able to cut my process, make it faster, then they can pay for it. So greener initiatives around circular design principles, embrace technologies and new age measure data, and you can't manage without data conditions. So you need to have some data. What I think data was there now? How much is the data with the new one stuff? So that's the only way you can manage it. I'm not saying that I've done greener, but then you can say this was the carbon footprints. My benchmark was this, and this is what I've done. It gives you 9 steps around. First thing is create the transparencies. Second would be by optimize for carbon dioxide. What is the design my product for sustainability? Design sourcing strategy for it. So product has to be designed. Then sourcing strategy as a procurement person, I will look at my sources. If I've got 6 suppliers, one is 1,000 miles away, one is 100 miles away, certainly 100 miles is more sustainable too. Assuming that the product is as good as that, price is reasonable. Engage suppliers, impose standards on them. So from 20,400, you can come with some guidelines for them. Guys, these are the guidelines for you. So you have to sign it and say, yes, I'm following it. And once you're done with the suppliers and their ecosystem, push the ecosystem. So that ecosystem means it's not only you as a buyer, there are other buying groups buying from the same supplier. You need to join. Engage with the peers, governments, investors, and government. So it's a big call around, I would call that. Sustainable sourcing, if you say green packaging, environmental improvements, regenerations. This one I've taken from your organization. You can see Reliance PNC Academy. So this is your academies. So starts from the green packaging, environmental improvements around regenerations, community sports, contract workers care, supplier collaboration, development of India's then PNC academies, digital switch, P2P cycle. So if you're doing P2P, cut down the process times. If P2P should be totally touchless. If P2P is not touchless, that's a place also I can cut down my carbon footprint. So Reliance PNC Academy, this is where I felt around could help in building this around. I think this today, what we're doing is just a very initial thought, but still we have to go a long way. So we need supplier management means qualifying suppliers, approving suppliers, and managing suppliers. This is the one circular economies around. You can see, will your current methods of consumption sustain the planet? Earlier, we were having only the straight line. Take, make, dispose, throw it away. That's not my job. Somebody else will take care. But now people are saying, guys, to take it back. You must have seen HP when your cartridge is over, they take it back from you. They pay you money also. Then they recycle. So those wastes which are digital waste are not going to the recycle. That's what we call our circular economy. Circular economy, circular procurements. This gives you the complete framework. Needs how to be defined, the tendering part around, go to the market, evaluation guidelines, selections, contract part. I know you already have this one around, but this need to be filled. There is not nothing as this, only the broad heading. This need to be filled in with your figures. So ISO 20400 says, guys, if you want to come with the process, take these broad guidelines, fill the gap here. Selection process, all be done selection. Add this one also sustainability into that. Performance review, add sustainability into that. So the word sustainability has to be bridged in all from 1.1 to 5.1. That's what we need. Lastly, but not the least, is even you might have a wonderful things around. The few things which are important, you need to have vision, skills, stimuli, resources, and roadmap. That's all combination will bring a change. The very important thing, if I don't have a vision, I'll land into confusion. If I don't have skills, but I have all other things, I'll get into fear. I don't have stimuli, I'm getting into resistance. If I don't have resources, I'll be frustrated. And I don't have a roadmap, I'm in a false start. So in short, any change you want to bring around in this, you need all the 5 pillars. This is where I thought, let me touch on this around. Final thoughts in this day and age. Companies have to look to being environmental friendly in all aspects of a business. To implement sustainable practice, they need to be payoff. Work out why we should, what benefit we'll get from it. That's very important. Work out existing footprints. How do we minimize it? But on top of it, footprints is there around, but we need also handprints. Footprints are negative side, but handprints mean I use my hand to redesign my process, redesign my product. That helps me to cut down the footprint. So handprints are also important. Plus, what we are trying to do this year also to create major awareness. Our award ceremony is happening in August in Mumbai. So this time our theme would be, a lot of awards will be on sustainable part. And there's another conference which we're doing in September 24th with the World Bank, Asian Development Bank, and government also. So which will be on 24th September, where we get normally around, last year we got 5,000 people worldwide. Our focus would be on, again, sustainable. Well, friend, with this, I want to thank you all for the patient hearing, and I'm sorry I took a little more time, but subject was like that. So thanks again. But if any questions, I'm open to that.